Terps end the season just like they started it.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, video content creator for 247 Sports and InsideMarylandSports.com, and host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. The Terps end the season just like they started it, with a loss to Penn State, 69-85, in a game that Penn State really controlled most of the game, especially the second half, but a pretty disappointing performance from the Maryland Terrapins overall. Maryland moves to below 500 on the season. We moved to 15-17 on the year, which is bad for college basketball. You might think of 15-17 in the NBA and be like, oh, you're not terrible. Maybe you're not the best team in the league, but you're not terrible. But in college basketball, if you're under 500 as a Power 5 team, you're having a bad season. You're not having a good season. You probably didn't play well in conference, obviously. You definitely didn't play well in conference, but you also probably didn't play well out of conference as well, which is kind of what Maryland did this season. We didn't play good out of conference. We had some bad losses. We lost to Villanova, of course. We lost to UAB. We lost to Davidson. We had some bad losses in our out-of-conference schedule, and now we're moving into in-conference, and then we also didn't play our best ball the entire year. But I also don't want to be like we just played bad the entire year. I also just don't think we were a great team. So, a great team only has a certain potential, a certain ceiling that they can reach overall. And I'm not saying we reached our potential. We definitely didn't reach our potential this year. But we also had very many holes in the team this entire year that were obviously got exposed at different parts of the year. And those things continue to pop up, and you kept trying to plug in one poll, and then another one would pop up for the Maryland Terrapins. And it showed in this game against Penn State. A lot of the holes that we've been looking at all year, that we started with at the beginning of the year, that we wanted to fix at the beginning of the year, when we took early losses, like I said, to UAB, to Davidson, where we had that 2-game win streak, and then we scored like 15 points at the half against Villanova. A lot of those problems are still in the program. And they're problems that I kind of guess there's stuff that you're not really able to fix during the season. It's really hard to fix some of the problems. Sure, some of them we were going to be able to fix. Like I thought earlier on in the year, I thought our defensive communication was bad, and I thought we had a couple of bad slip-ups on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe the overall whole entire game of the defense wasn't bad, but I thought we had a couple bad slip-ups in certain spots. But I thought as the season got on, I thought we got better at that. I did even think we got better offensively, even though that was still a problem the entire year. I thought Jameer Young continued to play better and better and better the entire year. I thought we got better in spots, but there were still so many holes that presented themselves, and that this game against Penn State that we saw, that was like, dang, we ended the season just how we started it, with getting absolutely crushed by a Penn State team. And I will give Penn State credit. They're a decent team. They're okay team. But I can't act like this Penn State team was anything crazy. They were about the same boat as we were in overall. They're 15-16. They're 9-11 in conference, compared to us being 7-13 in conference. So the same boat, they're under 500 as well. So it's two teams that were not in the best spot. So I'll give them credit for winning this game at home on their senior day, but I can't act like Penn State is an amazing team. This is more about us not being very good. It's not like the Purdue loss where I was like, dang, like we had nothing we could do to stop Zach Edey. It was like, I don't know what you guys could have done better. This game was just one where we just got out-talented. We got outworked, and not by a more talented team. That's kind of how I wanted to use talent. We got outworked by a team that was not more talented than us at all. And yes, we didn't have Julian Reese, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. which definitely didn't help. But that Penn State team was nothing crazy. They're still missing one of their leading scorers on the year that hasn't played in a while either, and one of their guards that is still leading their team in points even though he hasn't played in a while. But I still think that this loss wasn't very good. And those early season struggles that we saw, what was the number one thing that early on the season that Maryland really struggled with? That was a problem that I thought maybe would get better. Kevin Willard warned us. He said that it would take a little bit for it to get better, and that was the offensive side of the ball. But it didn't really get better in the same way that it looked earlier on the season, which kind of was scary how bad we were offensively earlier on the season. Remember, like I said, we couldn't really score against UAB, couldn't really score against Davidson, couldn't score at all against Villanova. Those things still were there, and especially specifically on the offensive side of the ball. You guys already know I'm going to say shooting the ball. That problem continued to go throughout the season. And when I talk about problems that I didn't think could be fixed during the season, that was one of them. I knew early on it wasn't like just 1 or 2 games we weren't shooting the ball well. The whole out-of-conference schedule, we didn't shoot the ball well. We were one of the worst teams in all the country in terms of the shooting metrics, and it didn't get better. And that's not one of those things you can fix overnight. Those are things that you have to continue to work on. And that problem that showed earlier on in the season has showed itself, and it showed itself in this last game, our last game where we're supposed to be as good as a team as you want to be. You're supposed to be in your last game, your last couple of games overall in the season. I think because I think you're supposed to steadily improve. Maybe you're a little bit tired at the end. I don't know, but I feel like when you hit your stride, especially in college basketball, when you want to hit your stride at least, is in March. And we saw those same problems present themselves where Maryland shoots 7 of 27 from 3 overall. A pretty bad number. It's been the theme all years. Couldn't make shots at a high level. 25% from 3 is just not going to get it done. And the thing about that is that's not even like one of the worst shooting days of Maryland's season. Like that's a pretty like normal kind of on par shooting day for the Maryland Terrapins overall. But that is something that has to get better overall for this Maryland team if we want to be in a better spot to be able to win games this or going into next year, and if we want to make any type of noise in the Big Ten tournament. But the thing that was kind of surprising, but also at the same time not super surprising because we've been inconsistent, which is a theme all year, which has been a theme to the start. We weren't good defensively. And yes, we've been one of the better teams defensively in the country. But overall, as a team, my point is we have been inconsistent in different spots, even in spots that we've been good at, like defense. And for the second straight game, we play like a horrible team on the defense side of the ball, giving up 85 points to Penn State team. Are you serious? Giving up 85 to Penn State? That's just a number that can't happen overall. Penn State is not good enough offensively for us to give up 85 points. They're just not. They're not that type of team. We should not be giving up 85 points to a Penn State team. Like I said, I'm going to give them some props, but I really can't give them that many props. That's on us for not having our best defensive day overall. Definitely cannot give up that many points to Penn State. And then also, we got to be better offensively. We can't score only 69 points. That was my other point that I wanted. I know I said our shooting was bad, and yes, our three-point shooting was pretty bad, but our field goal percentage was also pretty horrible. We shot 37.9% from the field, which just isn't going to get it done compared to Penn State, who shot 48.4% from the field. So a huge struggle on the offensive side of the ball, only putting up 69 points compared to Penn State putting up 85. And the thing about what I've noticed about basketball and sports in general, when one team's scoring a lot of points, you kind of expect the other team to maybe not score like, I didn't expect us to score in the 80s maybe, but to score in the 70s when Penn State is scoring 85 points, because usually you just accumulate more points if the other team is scoring more points. That's just kind of how sports goes overall. But scoring 69, it's just like, come on. And then if we look at the individual performances from our guys, Dante Scott and Jameer Young were two best players on the floor yesterday in terms of experience and in terms of what you would expect them to do. Obviously, Jameer Young is probably going to be first team All Big Ten. If I had a ballot to put out, I would put him for sure first team All Big Ten. He's been one of the best players in the Big Ten. But Jameer Young didn't have his best game shooting the ball, couldn't find it for himself. He only shot 4 of 14 from the field while shooting over 5 from the three-point line. Most of his points came from a really high percentage from the free throw line, shooting 8 of 9 from the free throw line overall, but not Jameer Young's best game. And then Dante Scott also was 1 for 6 from the three-point line, who's one of our better three-point shooters on the year, him and Jameer Young. And then he shot 3 of 9 from the field. Just not going to get it done when your two best players shoot that type of percentage. And that's kind of been the theme of the year. I mean, I don't want to say Jameer Young has done that, but a lot of the players on our team haven't shot the ball pretty well. So we basically started the season just like how we ended it. Maryland has to bring back Julian Reese. I will tell you why after this ad from Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination from sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experience with smart TVs as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more, not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. The Terps have to bring back Julian Reese next year. That is mission number one of the offseason, is to bring back Julian Reese. After watching that game played without Julian Reese last night on Sunday, it did not look good. Obviously, I just talked about how Maryland lost 85-69 and got crushed to a lesser Penn State team, in my opinion. I mean, you could say we were about even, but to me, we were a little bit better. But without Julian Reese, we're not a better team. If I would have known going into that game that Julian Reese was out, and it sounds like he tweaked his ankle in practice, and that's the reason why. And it's like, if it was a big game, he could have played. That's what Kevin Willard made it sound like. If we really needed him, like if our season was on the line, if it was like the Big Ten championship, like whatever it may be, he would have played. But since it's the last game of the season and there's not much to it, and how much he's played all year, you got to protect a guy like that, Kevin Willard said, and I completely agree with that. But I would not have chosen our team to win without Julian Reese like I did, because we are not the same team without Julian Reese, and I did not like the way it looked at all. Wasn't a pretty game. Didn't look right. Didn't look like we had the same flow and the same attitude about us on the offensive side of the ball. And don't get me wrong, we have not been good offensively this entire year. So saying that we didn't have the same attitude that I've seen in past games isn't already saying that much. So going to where we looked without Julian Reese, how we played without him, not a good spot to be for the Maryland Terrapins. You definitely need a guy like him, and he's a guy that next year could have the potential to transfer. Some people have been talking about it. I've kind of said that it's something that I could see him doing. I have no idea. I don't know Julian Reese. I don't know anything about it. But all I'm saying was, how this year's gone, how long he's been at Maryland for these last 3 years, him going into the senior year, it could make some sense for him to go play somewhere else. It just could. It's just how this stuff has worked. You guys can say that I'm completely wrong, and I could be wrong, but it does make some sense for him to play somewhere else with how the transfer portal has worked. And that's why I'm saying the number one mission this year has to be to keep Julian. But I didn't like at all, like I was talking about, how this team looked without him. And I haven't given Julian Reese enough credit. And I've been really hard on him at times this year for kind of disappearing at times. I felt like not playing to his full potential at times. I remember a couple games where he had like 0 points. He's too good to be doing that, but I also haven't given him credit enough for when he's played well, because at times this year he's been our best player. I mean, it's been kind of rare because Jameer Young has just been playing like a potential all Big Ten player of the year type of player, but he has consistently been at least our second best player, and he's a guy that if he comes back, he is going to be probably our best player next year, and we can have a really cool front court. But without him, it didn't look good. We had to rely on Maddie to start, but Maddie only ended up playing 10 minutes and made one shot and really struggled with those minutes. So you can't really trust Maddie in those positions overall. He definitely didn't play well and didn't play his. But Callum Swad and Rogers we had to rely on for heavy minutes, and he didn't do too bad. He had some good kind of plays overall, and he ended up scoring 5 points, but he ended up playing 22 minutes, and Kevin Willard talked about it. He said he's not used to kind of playing those big minutes overall, so having to play Callum Swan Rogers 22 minutes is not somewhere where you want it to be, but he did have 5 points overall, and he did have 3 rebounds, so it's not a bad day for him, and he shot a pretty good percentage from the free throw line, shooting 3 for 4 from the free throw line, but he's not a guy that you want to rely on to be in there late in game. But some other key spots where it was clear that we needed Julian Reese overall was when we looked at it, how Penn State's big man played. He really played well. The former Maryland Terrapin played really well against us. Wahab, he had 30 minutes. He went 7 to 12 from the field and 5 for 5 from the free throw line and had 19 points with 15 rebounds. And when Julian Reese defends him, I don't think he goes for this at all. And I think we play a lot better when Julian Reese is in the lineup. And I think we can defend a lot better. And I think we can defend a guy like him a lot better when Julian Reese is in the lineup. But we weren't really able to do that in this game, which was not our best performance at all. And you want us to play a lot better without Julian Reese. We want to be able to defend a guy like that a lot better overall. But at the end of the day, we weren't able to. But you would expect that to get maybe a little bit better. It was just guys that were inexperienced. But I don't want to see next year us going against bigs without Julian Reese being able to defend them, because guys like Wahan will be able to put up big numbers. Guys who shouldn't be putting up big numbers are going to be able to put up big numbers. But another thing was, without Julian Reese, we got completely out-rebounded against Penn State. We had only 26 rebounds, so Penn State having 47. So they almost doubled us up in terms of rebound. We can't lose the rebound margin by 21. That's just something that can't happen. And that's why I say mission to bring back Julian Reese has to be in play. That has to be the number one thing that we're looking at going into the offseason. That's going to be the number one thing, in my opinion, that we need going into next year. I think we need Julian Reese. And I know we bring in Derek Queen, 5-star Derek Queen, that I'm really excited about. And I think Derek Queen is obviously going to be a great player. But I still think for Maryland to have their full potential next year, I still think you really want Julian Reese in that mix, in that starting lineup next to Derek Queen. I think it makes us 10 times better than having to replace a guy like Julian Reese, as well as having to replace a guy like Jameer Young. That's really hard to do in the portal, to replace 2-star players overall. That's not an easy task for anyone. So I think bringing back Julian Reese has to be mission number one for Maryland this off season. What Terps kind of stood out? A couple of guys played better than you would have thought looking at the scoreboard. I will tell you about that after this ad from LinkedIn Jobs. These days, new potential hires can feel like high-stakes wagers for your small business. you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs help find the right people for your team faster, and it's for free. A lot of people need jobs right now, and if you want to find someone amazing for your company, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Guys, please visit LinkedIn Jobs. They do a great job. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Make sure you guys check out LinkedIn Jobs. So a couple of Maryland players actually played better than I would have thought. So this game was kind of a flip-flop of how a lot of the season has gone, where I've seen a ton of guys struggle this year in terms of guys off the bench, our supporting cast. And I'm not saying the supporting cast played amazing, but a couple of players actually had, I thought, pretty solid games. And I want to start off with Deshaun Harris-Smith in the 28 minutes he played. We know the struggles that Deshaun has had, but I thought he had a pretty efficient, pretty good game overall. Did a couple of things pretty well. He played 28 minutes, went 4 of 8 from the field, which is a pretty good spot, going 50% from the field, having 9 points. And he also shot 1 of 2 from the three-point line, shot 0 of 2 from the free throw line. That has to improve, but we know going into this offseason that the shooting has to improve for Jameer Young overall. And then, not for Jameer Young, for Deshaun Harris-Smith. And then I was also impressed with Jamie Kaiser. Without Julian Reese, you kind of expected Kaiser to have to play big minutes. And honestly, I thought he was probably number one in terms of guys who play well. He was our second leading scorer on 4 for 8 from the field. And in the 27 minutes he played, he knocked down a big three-point shot. He was able to hit shots that were other than three-point shots, which I haven't seen him do much. He also shot a high percentage from the free throw line, and he also had 2 steals. So I liked a lot what Kaiser did off the bench. You kind of knew with Reese being out, we were going to need Kaiser. And going into the Big Ten tournament, even though these actually count, and this is our last chance at, I don't know, we're not going to win it probably, but a lot of people get excited about it. People like to – it has meaning for sure. I still would like to see Jamie Kaiser be aggressive. I hope we get Julian Reese back. I would expect we do for our first game on Wednesday. But if we don't for some reason, we do need Kaiser to step up and play the way he did. I did really enjoy watching him play in the minutes that he played. And then Callum Swallow-Roger, I talked about earlier, he wasn't used to playing that many minutes, and he's not good at staying out of foul trouble. That's one thing he has to get a lot better at. He gets in foul trouble a ton, but he still put up pretty big minutes with 22 minutes overall, and he goes and he gets the 5 points. He only goes 1 for 2 from the field, but he does a good job getting to the free throw line twice. He gets an offensive rebound. That's pretty good minutes from him. So I liked overall what he did. I thought he did some pretty good thing. And then also Jahari Long also played 23 minutes, 2 of 4, 1 of 2 from the three-point line. So guys off the bench were pretty efficient. It was really our 3 of our starters, and Jordan Geronimo, who played 19 minutes, who went 0 for 4 from the field, and then Jameer Young, 4 of 14 from the field. But other guys stepped up and played big minutes and honestly played them efficiently, which has kind of been a reverse of what we've seen all season. I know I said that this game was a lot of what we saw this season, but it was also a little bit different because I saw other players play good enough to win, which we don't normally see, and Deshaun and Kaiser and I almost forgot to highlight Noah Batchelor also played pretty well with 3 of 7 from the three-point line. I felt like I was missing someone with 9 points, 3 of 7 from the three-point line. We'll take that from Noah Batchelor, and he played 18 minutes, so he also stepped up, and he hasn't been playing a ton. So you see different guys stepping up, and the role players played well this game, but the star players don't. Jameer Young doesn't shoot well from 3, and Dante Scott doesn't play his best game, and of course without Julian Reese. But if you would have shown me that these guys played this well and this efficiently, I would have thought we won the game, honestly. But that's not what happened. Even Deshaun Harris-Smith had 0 turnovers, and Jamie Kaiser had 0 turnovers. And then Jahari Long also had 0 turnovers. Noah Batchelor only had 1 turnover. If you look at it, it was really our star players. Jameer Young had 3 turnovers. Dante Scott had 2. It was our guys that you would expect to play better. But that's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked On Terps.